Hey everybody, Ben here. Thanks for clicking on the video and I hope it finds the right person. Obviously only take what resonates. So this was a fun one to me. I enjoyed it. In the very beginning, like before I connected, I was feeling like rigid and anxious. I felt rushed and then I was beginning to get frustrated because I was, you know, knocking things over, if you will. This was like the energy in the very beginning and I had no reason to be. I changed something up and I lit cedar instead, and then I began to hum when I was connecting, which I normally never do. So anyway, I connected, and there was a banging on the door, and what was out there was, I would describe it as, it was like what we would think of as a person. It was a short person. He was only about like this high, and he kind of looked like the Mad Hatter, I think. I don't remember Alice in Wonderland, but I looked it up and he did, like, his hair was white, but it was, wavy and sticking out of this top hat. And he was he was very energetic. He uh he was really pushing. He was like, come on, let's go. Let's go. It's time to go." And then what came through was a message of urgency. Don't miss the boat. And I felt this, like, well, I was hesitant. And then I felt this like trickster energy type of feeling, like, this is too good to be true. And he had the biggest smile ever, and his energy was, really inviting. Like, come on, let's go. Like, it's fine. Come on, let's go. And I was obviously very hesitant at this time. And, like, even when we look at the Mad Hatter, like, if I just typed in Mad Hatter, it was a name that hat makers got for mercury poisoning. So obviously that's going to mess up our system of how we operate, and it may put off, you know, they mistaken it for drunkenness at times, and drunk people seem fun at times, or they can be really bad news. Anyway, uh, then I heard, remember your training. So when I'm looking at this, we're looking at, uh, our life experiences and how they got us to this point. Yes, we've trusted people or believed people in the past, and we've learned from that. But we don't want to make the same mistake. We're a little hesitant. Can we trust this person? Is it too good to be true? I pulled a card on uh, this little magical, we'll call him the Mad Hatter, and the question I was asking is, is it him or is it us? You know, are we hesitant, or is, he really, is it safe? I guess we got the Chariot reversed, impulsive acts, you know, obstacles or setbacks. The way I took this is, you know, trusting him is a setback. I then asked it directly. I asked, if I go with this, is this going to rear us off our path? And when I was shuffling the cards, they blew out of my hands and they created a fan like this, rearing us off the path. It was very clear that, going with this individual, or, trusting them, it would be a bad decision. Although, as the card says, it's an impulsive act. You know, it is too good to be true. We are, but he's playing a good game. He's selling it to us. It's very inviting. Uh, where am I going next here? Then I heard a quest to freedom, and when we look at freedom, we could look at, obviously the definition of it, but what's really coming through is freedom to you. What will fulfill you? What is going to truly bring you joy and happiness? And that can only really be found personally. If we go with others' lead, or what other people are doing that seems to make them happy, or, society, or we're being coaxed in a direction that is, influenced by others, we very well possibly will not find any joy in that. We won't be fulfilled. And the only way we will know, say we don't know what makes us happy, we need to spend some time inside. The next thing that came through let me see here. At that point, uh, a Native American, like it had very shamanic feelings to it. He had a very large headdress on, red and white feathers, and there was green smoke all around him, like above him. And what I took from that immediately was, our heart chakra. And when we look at the heart, that's going with our heart. What does our heart want? And very well possibly that we closed that off, that we don't know. And we're just going through the motions or following someone else's lead, which is obviously, you know, just for example, let's say we're in a relationship and that partner is moving very far away and we don't want to move, but we don't know what we're doing or what we want. And all we have is that relationship. So, okay, let's go. But is it going to fulfill us? Probably not. I did make a note on. I did begin humming again when the guide came through. And it really comes down to going back to freedom, liberation. Are we liberating ourselves from something? A connection, something that's holding ourselves back, or a mindset? For the training, I'm sorry. I have way too much writing all over here. It was coming out in different directions. It's a bit of a mess. I'm trying to put it together here. Uh, Going back to what came through of remember your training, we had King of Wands, created vision, or creative vision. This is a natural leader, charisma. Obviously, when we're fully in ourselves, we're embodying ourselves and not trying to, fit in or be anything that's not us. That is a natural experience. Like that energy that we're emitting, others can sense it, whether they know it or not. And all these things are just drawn to us. When we're in that flow, materialistic items flow to us. All these things flow naturally because we're not resisting anything. We are presenting ourselves fully as ourselves and being ourselves without that fear of rejection or being unaccepted or misunderstood, all these types of things. And when we project that out, there's no resistance anywhere, and things just flow. Our My next question was the shamanic guide, the Native American. You know, what is he doing here? We got the lovers reversed, conflict. I'm looking at this. At first, I was looking at fear of commitment, and then I wrote down, I started to think disconnect, looking at the green smoke, disconnect from your heart. And then I got pretty heavy chills on that one. So, being disconnected from our heart, if we closed it off and we're just going through the motions, we very well can be at a place that we don't know what to do. And we want to make a move. And maybe this Mad Hatter came in with this great idea or this opportunity. And we're like, well, I don't know what I want. And that's an opportunity. And it sounds exciting. You're selling me a great story. Sure, I could do that. Uh, Messages here is, you know, we're following someone else's lead. And we need to go inward to see what we truly do want. The next question. Oh, I forgot one part. I'm sorry. After the shamanic guide came in, I heard the healer as one. And I pulled this card when I asked about it. Strength, inner strength. When we look at the healer as one, I wrote down a few things here. A lot of times, like we could look at it as a wounded healer. So a lot of times, like let's just use online here, this spiritual community, and uh, a lot of people put on this face that they did it all, they solved everything, they're so happy, and all this stuff is great. And for some, they are in a great place, but others, this is like a facade that we all have to be 100% healed, which is number one is impossible, but that we have it all together, and that's not true. We are here, sure, if we're from somewhere else and we came here for this lifetime or several of them, we're here. We're human. We have those emotions. Sure, we can see things differently, but we're still a human. And we're still going to have struggles. We're still going to have experiences. We still may, you know, go be manipulated into love with somebody that's a crappy person. We could still have to deal with society to an extent. We can write all these things off, and uh, we're still going to experience it to an extent. It's how we handle it in our emotions mainly. How do we allow it to affect ourselves? But also, the healer is one. This can go into healing yourself. You know, we that creates the ripple effect through collectively, but also, if we're a natural healer, which I'm sure I'm talking to somebody that is, if we naturally embody that ability, it doesn't have to look like how we may see it, like, oh, a doctor or a nurse or someone physically, chiropractor, massage, Reiki, all these types of things. That's what we see as a healer. And if we're naturally embodying that energy or that ability, it doesn't just mean that we have to do that. There's so many other ways. You could walk past let's just say a drug addict that has no teeth on the street, and they may say something to you. Just that interaction, that energy transfer, that we could look at that person and say, wow, they're worthless. That would be society's projection. But that person could be embodying that healer energy, and having that conversation actually triggered something inside of you to help you heal something that you're not even aware of. Those experiences, just passing by these people, things take place that we don't know. That triggers something, whether inside of us, it could be a negative experience, but that's going to bring it to the surface and allow us to evaluate it. Everyone's helping everyone. And, the healer is one looking at it collectively. We're all connected. So that person that pissed you off on the street, or, however you may look at it, that was an opportunity, to move forward. It always is. And it's also looking at that everyone in our experience, negative relationships or work, that was pushing us to heal. And we could look at it as victim mindset, and this person did these things, these bad things to me, and they hurt me. But it was pushing us forward, showing us, hey, I have the power, I deserve better, I deserve respect. And coming out of that, we may have built up boundaries, started to respect ourselves, so now others respect us. All these situations are connected. And I'm not saying they were easy, and I'm not saying that it was okay for what they did, but everything is pushing us forward, negative or positive. We only like to talk about the negative because it's what we remember and what we dwell on. We hardly ever talk about the positive. Well, if we talk so much about the negative, let's see how it actually propelled us forward, or if we're still holding ourselves back from these, limiting beliefs. Going with that, strength, the courage to embody this position, this healer energy, however you may see it. And our last card, I asked about the heart. And it was Ace of Swords, mental clarity. Clearly, if we connected and we went in, we would have clarity on what we want, or what's going to fulfill us, or what we're missing, and what we want to reintroduce into our life, or just introduce that we see that we haven't had yet. There's a lot found in there, and it's difficult to see sometimes. So, like, this was a perfect example. So I pulled the Ace of Swords, this last card, and I wanted to look at the normal, original picture. So I pulled that deck out. I told myself it's the last card on the bottom, but I didn't believe it. So I started going through every card, one at a time, looking for the Ace of Swords. And I'm halfway through, and I said, it's on the bottom. And I still went through every card, and I swear it was the card on the bottom. So these are these nudges that we don't want to trust or we don't believe intuitively. I just did it, you know? And, oh, it can't be. It can't be that easy. It can. But, if you've never utilized these nudges or the intuition or messages from spirit, start to listen a little bit. And going inside, through meditation or however it is that you connect, meditation doesn't have to be how everybody else says it has to be. It can be however you want it to be. It could just be walking in nature. These things come in, these ideas, these thoughts, and they're far fetched. They seem impossible at times to do. Oh, I can't do that. My word of the day today was it had to do with looking back and saying, I wish I would have done that sooner. But most of the time, whether that's leaving a relationship or a job or making a decision or a move, fully committing to something or a path in life, it's scary. I get that. And it makes us uncomfortable because it's pulling us out of our safety, our safety zone, our safety net. But by doing so, we are following ourselves. I did write down, I think I forgot to say it, something about uh, a journey. I guess I wrote a quest to freedom. What is that? It's part of the journey. I swear I wrote down that somewhere. I don't think I see it. No, doesn't matter. Anyway, it's part of the journey. A healer is one. Going through these situations, we're part of our journey. Where was I going with this? I am sorry. I was talking about the word of the day. Holding ourselves back with these limiting beliefs. And by doing so, then we like to blame ourselves a lot. At least I've experienced that. That why did I waste all that time doing this? Or why did I stay at this job or in this relationship that long? And it's like we saw it. We saw the problems, but we were comfortable. We didn't want to move forward, did we? Because it would be uncomfortable. Or maybe we were hoping we weren't seeing what we were seeing or experiencing. Like, oh, I'm misunderstanding. That can't be right. We're limiting our intuition. Just like I did with that card. I limited it. I said it can't be. I want that person to not be what they are. We're trying to give them the opportunity to prove it differently, and it's not going to take place. And that's a difficult place to get through when we're just learning or experiencing it, because, are these nudges just my insecurities being projected outward? Is it true that this person is who I think they are? No, they couldn't be. They're telling me they're not, so they can't be. It's a classic manipulation experience. But we're not trusting. And when we don't trust, we have a bit of a delay, if you will. And then you get to your next place and you're like, I wish I would have done this so much sooner. And that's okay. That's part of the journey. We would have never learned that, hey, okay, I was right. And just like with this card, I was right again. So we start to do a little trial and error, If we do rear off our path, if we go with the Mad Hatter, we can get back. But it's just a fair warning that, hey, that's not going to fulfill us. We just don't know what we want. And if we go in, we'll find out what we want. And I think I'm going to leave it there, guys. Oh, I forgot one last thing. I'm sorry. Towards the end, there was like this vortex or like tornado of energy from above coming down into my crown, and this energy was just dumping into me. This took place after the Native American was there. And when we're looking at this energy, what did I write for that? This, we can look at going in as just surface level here, but when you do, we're way out here. And all this energy is pouring into us, all this information, if we're open to it. It can also rejuvenate. It can clear our mind, and it's always there for us. This could also have gone with, the guide when I asked and we got the lovers reversed. There's a disconnect. When we disconnect from these things, obviously we are just here experiencing this and fully in the human experience. which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but reconnecting to that flow of energy that's available to all of us, is a huge benefit, let alone clearing us out all this junk and these thoughts and these self-limiting beliefs. You can go into this space to be free to allow, the information to come through and to get clarity. Sorry guys, everything was all over the place. Hopefully it makes sense to the person it's meant for. And with that, I wish you all the best. Take care. Thank you.